Could you walk us through your net worth from when you started here to now? Because you mentioned being a net worth millionaire, but then starting off with debt. Could you walk us through that process?
Yeah.
And like your net worth by age, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I didn't like
Sure.
track it
It doesn't need to
methodically.
be
But when I
exact.
started at Ramsey, I had a negative net worth of,
Okay.
negative 40 grand in the hole between my student loans and my credit cards. And I didn't have much to my name. I had like a little $2,000 401k that I rolled over from when I was at Apple and a few stocks that I ended up selling to get out of debt faster.
Oh, really quick. You mentioned that you had 13 shares of
I had 13 shares. I
Apple.
looked at the splits because I knew you'd ask.
Yep.
Those 13 shares were worth about 7 or 8 grand when I sold them. If I had held on to them to today, they would be worth a little over 50 grand.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we looked
you were
at this
asking, does that
earlier.
hurt in hindsight? I was like,
Yeah.
I don't look at hindsight of what could have been.
Sure.
It's like a relationship. Like, what could have been? But honestly, becoming debt-free that much faster, I think it was a wash as far as the result.
Okay.
To get out of debt faster, get the emergency fund faster, begin investing faster, I feel like it was still worth it. I would do it all over again.
Okay.
But as far as net worth, I was negative $40,000 in the hole back in 2013 when I started. And 2023, here we are, and I have a net worth of almost 1.1 million.
How is that comprised? Is that a house, investments? Like, what's the breakdown of that?
So I am very heavily weighted towards mortgage because me and my wife, who again works here, when we got married, we both started off completely debt-free in our marriage. I had already paid off all my debt. We had the emergency fund. We had already both built up savings. And so we were able to put down 45% on our modest townhome in Nashville.
Wow.
And so that allowed us to have a smaller mortgage of $165,000, which we then aggressively paid over 26 months. And so 26 months later, we were completely debt-free. As you know, we live in one of the wealthiest counties in the nation here in Williamson County in Tennessee. And so the house appreciation, as you know, in the last few years, skyrocketed. And so that is a huge part of our net worth. So we're weighted about at least 2/3 in house currently. And then the other third between my wife and I, it's basically just our 401ks. And, we have our cars, which aren't worth that much. But aside from that, you guys, we were talking at dinner and it was like, you really don't have single stocks? You really don't have any crypto? I was like, I'm so boring. I literally just have a 401k. I have an IRA that was a rollover that has the same diversified mutual funds as my 401k, and my wife invests the same exact way through her Roth 401k, and we are as boring as it gets when it comes to that.
How confident are you with your own personal finances?
Confidence.
Like, what's your relationship with financial security? Just the feeling of it right now.
Oh, I would say on that front, security-wise, I feel better than I've ever felt in my life as far as financial security. And part of that is, just living a debt-free life. It removes that piece of the brain that's going like, you're not okay, you're not safe. And I know you guys, that part of your brain was removed long ago. Like you're totally okay.
Graham is
what?
We'll
like
get
as far
onto that.
as far as like mortgages and risk, and obviously real estate versus, if all of that real estate debt was in crypto, you might be losing sleep at night.
Oh, yeah.
But you're very comfortable with real estate. You're a savant when it comes to real estate, and so you understand what you're invested in. But as far as financial security, I feel great about retirement. And again, I'm not trying to do like there's the FIRE movement, and I'm not trying to retire at 35. That's not a goal for me, especially as someone who's married, has a family. We just have different goals. And so I'm like, I love what I do. I want to be here for the next 20 years. And so I'm totally okay with my 401k slowly growing in balance over time over the next 20 years versus I need to make $500,000 in the next 5 years or else I'm screwed on my plan. And so I have a longer term horizon, longer term game plan. If the folks that are doing FIRE, they want to retire in the next 5 years, you've got to be wildly aggressive.
And how secure do you feel financially, Graham? Like, what's your relationship with your own financial security?
I feel like it sounds stupid, probably 75% secure, but a lot of it, I think, like what the worst case scenario. I think to myself, stocks going down 50%. At the same time, there's like some sort of lawsuit that happens at the same time as like, I don't know. I think of like if like, let's say an earthquake hits Los Angeles and it's like the one, and insurance payouts aren't like enough, and it all happens at the same time.
So your real estate crashes, your investments crash.
Yeah.
And you still have a cash cash position.
I do.
Which
I
that's
do.
a big hedge for you.
Right. But I'm like, if everything happens at once, how do I insulate myself from that? Like, I have
Yeah.
insurances and stuff like that.
We get
but,
calls like that on the show where people are
you know.
like, "Hey, I saw the news and like, should I pull out all my money out of the stock market?
Yeah.
Like, what if it all goes down to zero?" I'm like, if you're saying every company goes bankrupt in
Yes.
America, we're not going to be worried about our investment accounts. We're
Yeah.
going to be shooting each other for water. You know what I mean? So like that is an apocalyptic I Am Legend scenario that I just don't entertain. And I have a lot of faith in the American economy that, capitalism and innovation will always cause us to prosper over the long term.
Yeah.
And so if you've looked at the stock market dips, in hindsight, it was like, oh, that was a small bump in the road. But when you're in it, it feels like you're being jostled in a roller coaster.
I'm just really risk adverse when it comes to like, I like to maintain and conserve wealth than necessarily try to like maximize or build it. So I look at like what's the worst possible case scenario that could happen at the same time, and how do I prepare myself for that?
That makes sense.
So like that's kind of how I plan everything. It's like, how can I maintain this current lifestyle, assuming everything goes to zero and the market crashes and we get an earthquake in LA and my insurance doesn't cover it at the same time I get hit with something. Like that's what I plan for, as stupid as it is, because it makes me sleep at night knowing that like no matter what happens, it's okay.
You're going to be okay.
Yes.
The
But
only
I
thing
feel
that,
good.
that I see with you saying, what can I do to maintain or preserve this current lifestyle,
Yeah.
is the fact that whatever your current lifestyle is constantly changing. It's like back when you were in Santa Monica, that was the current lifestyle.
Yeah.
You drove the Tesla, that's how you lived. And then you moved to Las Vegas, and then you bought this new Vegas house, and so you're maintaining that mortgage payment as well as the one.
There's
in
nothing else I want.
Well, then you bought a Ford GT, and then you
Yeah,
bought an
but-
aquarium, and then you bought this. And it's like
Yeah,
the
but-
lifestyle, the current lifestyle it's not.
It's
I
a
mean,
moving
obviously, it
target.
will always be current because that's the only thing that exists. But also, like, it's changing. It's always dynamic.
I'd say there's nothing else that I want. The only thing I would like at some point is have a slightly bigger home for a bigger office and more backyard space. That's it.
That's
That's the
reasonable.
only thing I could think of.
But comparatively to the average consumer, you are actually like the least flashy as far as, most people with your level of wealth, they are really showy. And most people who even want to aspire to where you want to be, they're going out every weekend. They're spending at the bars. They're buying the nicest clothes. Whereas you've decided, I'm going to actually swim upstream against a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so the things you buy, they're very rare and they're super intentional.
Yeah.
And you've talked about the Ford GT and like the cars and the watch.
They make money. That
And
that
so you're
Ford
going-
GT is up 30%, Jack.
That's impressive.
Better than the stock market.
Should have
better than
invested
real
in
estate.
Graham's cars.
Yeah,
Should
really.
have bought a Ford GT.
Now that could be
Really,
be your new business model. You can invest
Buying cars.
in Graham's purchases.
I
and
would.
as they
That's
go
a
up
good
in value.
idea. Yeah, I would buy.
I would love to do that. If I could get a good deal right now on an SLS AMG, that's the car.
What's
that
a
I
good deal on something like that?
150 and below for a low mileage under 18K SLS AMG, preferably silver.
Hey, if you're out there and you've got that, Graham's your guy. You got a deal.
The thing I'm noticing is that you have this peace of mind kind of with regards to finances and this confidence and optimism about you that I really like. And I'm like, okay, that peace of mind seems like it's invaluable. Like I would love to have that financial, deep-rooted security that you have. Now, of course, Graham is killing it financially. And I see
Yes.
him like, oh, it'd be kind of nice to.
Yeah,
be
I'm
where
probably.
Graham's at
Can we
one
just
day.
say like I'm probably the poorest rich person that's ever been on your show. I mean, as far as like most people that you guys are talking to, they're like insanely successful. And so I hope I'm the poster child for anyone who
Success-
like works a normal, like they work for a company and they have a 401k.
Yeah, sure.
That's possible for them too, without having to like be the biggest creators and entrepreneurs of all time.
Yeah, but you're talking like directly tied to the financial success. When I'm kind of talking just like overall fulfillment and like seemingly
yeah.
like, you know what I mean, confidence with regards to
We talk
finance.
about
Like,
financial peace a lot, and obviously we have a deep faith background in that. And Dave talks about this at the end of every show. He mentions this as a big part of what we do, and it's a deep why behind it. And I just feel more financially peaceful knowing the faith background and reading the Bible and seeing the scripture and how it talks about money. There's over 2,300 scriptures that involve wealth and money, which is shocking to me.
What do they say?
Well, for example, Proverbs 22:7 says, "The borrower is slave to the lender. The rich rule over the poor." And so it's one of the reasons that I'm just like, yeah, the borrower is slave to the lender. Like, I don't want to be beholden to anyone financially. Like, I don't want to be in chains.
Doesn't it depend on the terms necessarily? Because let's say the lender is lending at 1%. Then it seems like maybe the roles are
But
reversed a little
if
bit.
you're, let's say you're, do you have any siblings?
The half sister.
Okay, so if she loans you $100,000 at 1%, does that not change the relationship when she sees you going on vacation
It does,
and
but
buying a car and,
but that's assuming that but that changes the relationship that's already there, because we're going
Sure.
from a sibling relationship to now she has power over like what I spend money on. But with the bank, you don't have that like sibling relationship to begin with. It's always
it's
like
very
like-
transactional.
right, exactly.
But even then, you said, like, what if it all goes down? And so if it all goes down, your best position is to not owe anyone anything in that regard.
Right, but I also think that if you put enough money down and you're safe with the property, you fix it up. Let's just say
That's
I'm
talking real
thinking
estate.
that
We're
from a
talking
real
real
estate
estate.
standpoint, you could always sell it.
You could, if it's worth much at that point.
Correct.
And so we all, Dave shared his story last time. And obviously, it was a different time back then, but lender called all the notes,
Yeah.
bank got sold, and all of a sudden he couldn't swing the $2 million, notes that were owed in time, selling them off fast
Sure.
enough. And so he got burned by that, obviously, and since then has looked at what the Bible has to say about money. And even when it comes to investing, I mean, the Bible's chock full. Proverbs 13:11 says, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." And I'm like, the Bible was coming after the crypto bros before it even existed. I mean, you talk about wealth gained hastily will
Yeah.
dwindle. Money that comes in really fast will leave just as fast.
Sure.
Money that you slowly build up over time ends up staying with you for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just such wisdom in that. Regardless of if you believe in the Bible or you have a faith background, it's hard to not see the wisdom in that common sense principle. And so it's one of the reasons why I own zero crypto. I just have no interest in the anxiety of it and gaining it fast and losing it faster. I'm okay with my 401k slowly building at the rate of the market over 20 years.
And you think that wisdom is due to like the long term, just like constantly ingraining those philosophies of like, you work, honest work, and you just kind of save up a little by little and you're frugal with your money. That is more valuable than making a bunch of money overnight.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you work for the money, which, I mean, not that if you research the right single stocks and like you did, that is work, right? But when you like toil, like there's like labor involved, you showed up and put in the work, it feels different than like luck. I picked the right stock at the right time, right? Like someone who wins the lottery, for example, there's a reason lottery winners, their life implodes generally, and they end up losing all that money. Their family comes after them versus someone who earned that money through a business, for example,
Yes.
over time. Customers gave them, certificates of appreciation with presidents' faces on it saying, thank you for providing the service. That's what YouTube does when you put out great content and people watch that content. When I just chose the winning lottery ticket, I know internally I didn't deserve that. And so it changes the way you view that money and view that wealth. And oftentimes you're tempted to go spend it all.
Yeah.
I've rarely seen lottery winners where like, I took all the money and I just invested it in an S&P 500 index fund and I haven't touched it. Instead, it's this changes everything. The
Yeah.
greed sets in.
Yeah. It doesn't
And
feel
we've
like
seen
you've
that in the
worked for
crypto
it.
world. There's
Right.
so much greed in that world. And I'm not saying everyone who does crypto is evil or anything like that. But we've seen a lot of scammers and frauds and grifters enter that space. And it can be a get rich quick kind of mentality where they're going, if I just get in the right meme coin, well, 3 weeks from now or a year from now, that could turn into this much. And so that is just too much anxiety and too much responsibility for me to handle versus going, I'm just going to earn my pay every day over time, and I plan on working until I can't work anymore because I think we were created to work. We were created to contribute. And that's with the anti-work movement, that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. Now, what I didn't say was work for a toxic company for 30 years doing something you hate. That's what they hear in their mind when we say working is good. Like I want you to work in such a way that you can do the things you want to do and find that balance. And you guys have done that. You're in the content creator space. You own your schedules and time more than most people do. And so you're doing something you love, hopefully. I mean, Jack seems like he's having a good time.
All right, Jack?
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
This
yeah,
is-
we're
I mean,
here in
this is
Nashville,
a
man.
dream.
Look at us
Exactly.
here.
I'm doing something I love. It's incredible that I get to just show up and do this and help people every day and spread the word. And so, I mean, all of these discussions, it can get esoteric and philosophical and all of these things, but I've just found my way didn't work. Culture's way didn't work. And so I went in a whole nother direction and followed someone else's proven plan that was based on biblical principles, and it worked. And so there's no argument. It's just like, that's my story, and I think it works for anyone who wants a piece of that. It is available to them.